Right. So, I will be discussing some model questions for scientific method part, right? So, I mean, there are some main lessons that you have to go through when it comes to scientific method. You have to have a particular idea about what is science. So, and scientific methodology, right? Basically, you will be getting several questions on scientific methodology part, right? I know it's a kind of a, I mean, it's a bit hard to study scientific methodology part, but uh, just try to remember it as a story, okay? You just can remember it, okay? And the thing is that there is I mean there is a um, basic kind of a structure in every scientific methodology. If we take um, let's say uh, if we say take induction, there is a basic kind of a structure. I mean P1, P2, P3, and we can get several particular incidents, and then therefore here we get the hypothesis, H4 hypothesis, right? So you just can, I mean, remember these structures and the things that these, let's say, Karl Popper mentioned about science, right? Eva Geva, you have to um, keep in your mind, right? So now I'll be discussing some, I mean, you'll be getting questions on scientific methodology part for sure, right? And what you have to do is take a short note, right? Short note එකක් ගන්න scientific methodology part එකේ, right? If there's, I mean, if there is I mean, let's take Kuhn's relativism, right? You just can take a short note from Kuhn's relativism, and then you can, I mean, uh, remember it easily, right? I will be, yeah, I'll be doing a summary on scientific method, right? What is the scientific method? Hmm? So it is a method by which the knowledge in science is acquired. So that is called the scientific method, right? There are 5 steps in scientific method. Steps in scientific method. We'll see what are they. The first one, I mean, before we move to that part, I mean, these are the steps that are followed in accepting and constructing a scientific view. The first one, problem, right? The second one, forming a hypothesis. Third one, making predictions. Fourth one, experiments. Fifth one, elimination or acceptance of the hypothesis. Right. What is meant by a problem? I mean, in order to, let's say, in order to do a kind of experiment, right? There should be a problem, ne? Without a problem, what we are gonna, examine, right? So we have to have a problem. Or let's say in scientific research, we say a research gap, right? There should be a research gap to be filled, right? Research gap එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ in order to fill that. If not, there's nothing that we can inquire in, right? So just try to remember these, notes as short notes. මම මේ දැන් දෙන්නේ scientific method කියන එක ආවොත්, like, if you'll be given a question on scientific method and to, let's say, define and elaborate its process. So this is the process. There should be a problem. You have to form a hypothesis and you have to make predictions and you have to do experiments and you have to, after the experiments, you can eliminate or you can accept the hypothesis, right? Right. Now we'll see what is meant by a problem, right? What is a problem? We can define a problem as the instances and incidents that cannot be explained using the scientific theories and ideas that are existing in a particular period, right? There are theories and laws and all to, let's say, to how do you say, to define things in the world, right? But there are some things that you cannot define them by using the existing theories and laws. Then that is a problem, right? Instances instances and incidents instances and incidents that cannot be explained using the scientific theories and ideas that are existing in a particular period. So that is a problem, right? And how do we make a hypothesis? Yes, hypothesis is kind of a tentative explanation, right? Right. So hypothesis is a tentative explanation. Hypothesis is a tentative explanation that a scientist develops as an answer to that question. Right? So now we have a problem, right? Now we have a problem, and for that problem, we make a tentative kind of explanation, right? A tentative kind of explanation we are making for the problem that, I mean, problem that exists, right? And then we make a prediction. What does that mean? A prediction. So the data that are true, following the truth of the hypothesis, are called predictions. The data that are true, following the truth of the hypothesis are called predictions, right? And also it can be called as logical consequences of the hypothesis. මොකක් හරි දෙයකට in order to happen something, there should be a logical process නේ. So that is, I mean, the logical consequences. I mean, there should be logical consequences in order to happen something, right? So that is what it is called as making predictions. Predictions are logical consequences, right? Right. Right. And then we'll see what is an experiment, right? So now we know, in order to, I mean, follow a scientific method, we have to have a problem, and we have to have, I mean, we have to have a hypothesis that we have formed, which is a tentative explanation to the problem. And we have to make predictions, which are logical consequences. And what is an experiment? Experiments are done to check the predictions. Right? And to let's say find empirical evidences. What does it mean by empirical? Empirical can the things that we can see via our senses, right? To find empirical evidence to the predictions. Right? And we'll see the final, I mean, finally what we have to do, elimination or the acceptance of the hypothesis. I mean, after following this process, when there's a problem, you form a tentative explanation, which is a hypothesis, and you make some predictions, right? And then you do some experiments, and then experimentally you come to a conclusion. Whether it can be an elimination of the hypothesis, or it can be the acceptance of the hypothesis, right? So if the empirical experiments prove the predictions, and hypotheses, then right, if the empirical experiments prove the predictions and hypotheses, then the hypothesis is accepted, right? But if not, what happens? Rejected, right? So this is a scientific method process. So there are several scientific methods: induction, deductive falsification, and all. But this is the basic kind of method that you have to follow when doing a scientific experiment or something, right? Make a mataka tiyaganda, you'll be getting, sometimes you'll be getting a question, not to elaborate this one, but just some small random questions, right? And make sure you study what this Popper has mentioned, what is science by his terms, right? You'll be getting some, at least MCQ questions on that, right? So, Mewage, I'll be sending some small video clips so that you can go through with that again and again, right? Okay.